What up? Pat Mayo here before the show starts. Although this is a Challenge USA 2 breakdown, we spent the first 20 minutes of the show talking about streaming services, the business of that, which ones are going out of business, and just a lot about the tech side and business side of a lot of these streaming services and how they interact with reality TV shows and sports. If you're looking for the Challenge breakdown, just hit the time code. I was going to cut that part out and put it at the end, but that's a lot of work. It's much easier just to do this and let you know. All right? Enjoy the show.
You're entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Today is a cross-promotion show with the Challenge Chronicles podcast because we have the premiere of the Challenge USA 2 on CBS starting on August 10th. Everyone who's especially a longtime listener of the Pat Mayo Experience knows that I really got into the biz talking about football, talking about golf and baseball, but also a ton of reality TV, primarily the Challenge. So I've been off that island for a while, but I still watch. I'm still highly invested, and I still like playing in the fantasy game. If you want to play in the free fantasy game, hit the link in the description right now. It's set up like DraftKings wise, where you pick 6 players within a salary cap. It's a whole lot of fun. You only get to pick your team once, though, by the way, and you get points for like fighting and winning and hooking up and all that fun stuff that we love about the Challenge. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Devin Jordan on vacation, so I'm stepping in for him. Rob MacIntyre, Trace Armstrong. Fellas, actually, Trace, are you excited for this season?
Surprisingly, USA 2 is probably the most excited I've been about a season in a while, just because I really like the cast. I really like the format I'm hearing. So I'm hoping that it plays out to meet my expectations. Now, granted, we're not talking Rivals 2 level expectations. We're in, total madness bar height.
Well, Rob, we got what? We have this coming out. All Stars 4 is done, and they're just holding on to it right now. I'm guessing because of the writers' strike that they might have to take it off Paramount Plus and put it on CBS at some point if the strike goes on for long enough and they start running out of content. And then the actual Challenge season, Challenge 39, I think is done filming right now. So we'll probably see that in October or November on MTV. So there's a lot of Challenge coming up. I'm actually excited for all of them. Like listening to you guys, not so much Rob, but you, Trace, and Devin, who's not here, are like out on season 39 before it starts. I'm kind of in, Rob.
My thing is, if we haven't liked the past couple of seasons of the show, 39 at least represents something different, right? They've recognized that they want to change things up. So if they're going to change things up, I'm willing to watch it. And that's like, obviously it could be bad, but I mean, it could be good. They've decided to change things up. I think they've made a good direction so far.
Yeah, I kind of live under the premise exactly like you do, that the last few seasons were absolutely god-awful. How could it really get worse at this point? So let's throw a change up and see what happens. And at least, Trace, if you have a whole bunch of people, and just a spoiler for the team, like the concept of 39, not any actual spoilers, but it's no people who have ever won before. So it's all like a bunch of jabronis looking to get their first win, that, maybe these people, if they want a few callbacks, Trace, are going to be hooking up and drinking and making a scene. All the things that I love about the Challenge that now that it's professional CrossFit that they don't do anymore.
Yeah, well, the problem is I have no faith that the editors will actually show any of that information. From everything I've heard from cast members that have been on previous seasons, they're still, they're not drinking as much because they have drink tickets now. They're limited to like 2 drinks a night. There have been hookups, there have been fights, but instead they've shown us Tori and Jordan drama part 87. And so unless they make I think where I'm at is, the way they edit the show now, I'm not interested in season 39 as much. Now, however, if they do a course correction and edit the show like they used to, this really could be a fun season. I've been burned too much by their production to expect them to actually show that these days.
I think that's part of why I have some hope, because again, with this cast change up, they recognize we want to do something different with this season. We recognize we don't want to do the same thing. Maybe editing wise, it'll still be like a Hallmark movie and they won't show anything actually interesting. But this is at least shown some indication that they want to change something about the show.
I would tend to agree with Rob. And what do we have in terms of the contract for the main show? We'll get to the cast of USA.
We'll get to that
in a moment. But like, you have this season 40. I even saw that Frank Sweeney was tweeting about that he would come back for season 40, which I am all for. Give me more Frank in my life. I miss Frank. on my TV. And he can pretend like he's a reformed individual, but I don't want to see reformed Frank on my TV. I want to see giant asshole Frank, who is also really good at competitions, on my TV. That's kind of what I'm hoping that we get from this like season 39. But after season 40, I don't believe it's probably going to be on MTV any longer, if MTV even exists with like in the course of the next 18 months.
Yeah, I've got some sources that are out there, and from what this is what, let me say what I have confirmed, then I will speculate. So what I have confirmed, the challenge is only contracted through season 40 on MTV. So there is no 41 currently on the docket for production. And the rumor mill, as we move into speculation, is I've heard that MTV is not even going to be a network in 2025. So what Bunim and Murray is doing with USA 2 by putting vets of the show on, to me, is testing the waters on how the mainstream audience is going to react to Johnny Bananas and Wes and things like that, so that potentially the challenge is just going to be on CBS moving forward in your feeder shows, instead of being, let's pick the international Jabron show of the month. We're just going to use Survivor, Love Island, and these CBS-based reality properties to fill out the cast.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I'm actually kind of stunned that, because if that's really what they're trying to do, and maybe they're saving that for season 40 and really blowing their budget on it, because it seemed like they saved an awful lot of money with season 39, that if you're going to put your product on CBS, which is probably what, 3 to 10 times the audience of what the challenge would get on MTV, a much
at least.
Oh, no, it's way bigger than that. I mean,
You think it's bigger than
MTV
10 times?
Yeah, MTV in America now, if you look at the number of people that have traditional cable or a YouTube TV or things like that, I think I saw a statistic that it's like 18% of what was there 10 years ago. Whereas CBS, if you have a digital antenna, you get it for free. And if you have Paramount Plus, you get it for free. So to me, I would say the audience for CBS has 100% penetration unless you're in the desert in Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think MTV still comes in most of those packages, though. Like, we're Hulu Live TV, we still get MTV.
Yeah, like all I was going to say is like when you looked at the ratings for Challenge USA 1 versus what you see for the flagship show. Now, granted that the flagship show has gone down in ratings, but again, it's on cable. So you're right. What I was trying to speculate at is it was probably what, like 600K to 800K per episode for the flagship trace?
Oh, it was bigger than that. So USA's ratings were in like the almost 2 million people range,
okay.
right? Or
So the USA
He's
one.
saying for the flagship show.
What's the flagship at? 600.
the flagship right now, 600K was what Ride or Die's averaged. When USA was airing, they were hovering in that 800, 900K per episode.
All right. So if I said that the audience should be 10 times bigger, then I was wrong. That is not getting
like
It's
double.
only like 1.5. Yeah.
yeah.
I would think in terms of overall, I was looking at it from the perspective of overall amount of people who watch CBS,
Okay.
like regular programming, like not football, like just their own TV show products versus MTV. I would assume it's still significantly higher. So will the show continue under the same flagship umbrella then, or will it continue under the USA umbrella?
I think you drop USA if they're moving it officially to CBS. Like, why do you need to designate it as Challenge USA unless they're going to continue Challenge Australia and UK, which based on the ratings, probably not.
Based on the quality, they should only do Challenge
Well,
Australia.
And that's
Australia
the
and UK were
irony.
fire.
That's the irony. Both UK and Australia were actually really good, like television. It was really entertaining. We got the sloppy fighting, the drunken tirades,
Hooking
random political stuff. It was great. It was really, really good.
Like Australia, I think is probably my favorite season since War of the Worlds 1 outside of the All-Star season. Australia was a fire season.
Yeah. I mean, the answer to all of this is that we're just going to all end up watching All-Stars, and that's going to be it.
I'm assuming it still keeps going, which is the hope.
It should. It seems. I mean, there's only so many things on Paramount Plus that actually get people to buy Paramount Plus. It's essentially Yellowstone and all like the Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone spinoffs and whatever the new one is, and Tulsa King, like that universe of creator. And then you have all of the new Star Trek properties, and even the old ones I think are on Paramount Plus, which is a good niche market that people will go out of their way to buy. Like Star Trek isn't huge, but it has a very strong core community that will buy these products. So you have a built-in fan base there. And then you have this. Like, that's essentially it. Like Challenge All-Stars, the Challenge World Championship, which, I didn't mind. It wasn't great. And then you have all these spinoff shows. But if you can move everything onto Paramount Plus and the name of the game is to get subscribers, then that seems like the way to do it.
I think the real question that I have, though, is are we going to see the burst? Because we're kind of on the precipice of the burst of the streaming platforms. You've got Peacock losing money. You got Paramount Plus losing money. I think Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus are the only three streaming platforms that are actually turning a profit. So at what point do these companies think about dropping their streaming platform and going back to just licensing to Netflix? So that's the thing I worry about for the future of an All-Stars property is, will Paramount Plus even still exist in 2 years? We just don't know how the streaming bubble is going to change in the next 2 years.
I think some of it will have to do when the new contracts are signed with the writers to see which digital rights end up going to the writers with all this in terms of residuals. But I think that the tech spend on an over-the-top property like this gives it a lot longer legs than people are talking about, because people do not want to just sink that investment, especially when you're Viacom and you're talking about this kind of thing. Or, I guess you say Disney Plus is still making money. I heard it was too woke to make money, but that's me.
Well, they're just making bad shows on Disney Plus lately. But I look at my 4-year-old. My 4-year-old boots up Disney Plus twice a day. Like she's on it. And I feel like my sample in the deep south of America is a pretty good indicator. If you've got deep south kids booting it up, more liberal areas, there's a lot more kids booting it up. So I think Disney Plus is going to be just fine no matter what they do.
I would think so too.
Easy to make money on too.
And they have Disney itself. Well, they're cutting costs and laying people off. It's not because they're losing money. It's just because their growth wasn't as big as they wanted it to be. And this is a way to, in quarter 2 instead of quarter 1, to show, hey, we made a lot more money because we fired 100 people that, you can say you needed them or didn't need them, but we replaced them with more cost-efficient people.
Yeah, and I think that the secret success of streaming platforms like Paramount Plus in the future, and I think you're going to see this with Max as well, they're going to have to open up the checkbook and spend more money on exclusive live sports programming.
Agreed.
Amazon Prime spent a ton of money to get the NFL on the Thursday night package. NASCAR just sold the rights to their secondary series for a boatload of hundreds of millions of dollars to just the CW. And I'm hearing that NASCAR is looking to take a block of races to put exclusively on a streaming platform. So that's the kind of thing that's going to keep those subscriptions rolling in, is live sports.
Wait, so minor league NASCAR is on the CW app?
It was announced this week. So CW in America has 100% penetration across everybody over the air antenna wise. So the Xfinity series is the rung right below the NASCAR Cup Series. And I think they are paying NASCAR $125 million a year to be the exclusive home of 35 races the whole season for the next 10 years, beginning in 2025.
So I like this strategy from the CW, Rob. They have minor league NASCAR and live golf.
Yeah.
It's like that, and Whose Line Is It Anyway reruns. That's all they got.
Yeah. And they used to have the whole Arrowverse properties, but those have all been canceled. But they're basically going in to be the over the air second tier sports network. But you can download the CW app for free in America and stream whatever's on. So there's no, if you're interested in live, or if you're interested in secondary NASCAR and then whatever else they go after, because I think they also have some of the USFL games too.
Sweet.
And XFL
CW
games.
does?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
No,
And so
I think
it's an
USFL
interesting strategy is my point. And so I think what you're going to see is live sports is going to drive the shelf life of some of these streaming platforms.
But what if we see it and it's not successful? Because Apple TV Plus did that MLS deal, and as it just turns out, not a good deal.
Well, I think you have to look at the demographic of America. Rob, I'm sorry, I cut you off. You come back in just a second. You have to look at the demographic of America. If you were to put a percentage of Americans that are watching the MLS, I would peg it at 5%, maybe. And that might even be generous. However, you put a crappy NFL game on Thursday night, you can get 20%. So to me, it's a better investment. You've got to invest in the big sports. Like ESPN Plus is profitable because they're the exclusive home of every NHL game now.
But I mean, are we sure that more people watch the NHL than watch the MLS in America at this point?
Based on attendance, yes.
On attendance, sure, but in actual, like, because I find that hockey is a lot like baseball in terms of it, Rob, being a regional sport around the country where, you're in like the DC area, you care about the Capitals, presumably. I mean, Trace, you're a Capitals fan too, aren't you?
Yes.
But, like, do you care about what, I don't know, the Anaheim Ducks are doing?
I throw hockey games on in the back when I'm not doing anything. I also just watch a lot of sports, though, so I may not be the best barometer for this. I would say most of my friends who also are Capitals fans, like from the area, they know a couple big names on other teams. But if you ask them like power rank the teams in the NHL, they'd have no clue. They don't know anybody who's not on the first line of any of these other teams or is one of their 3 or 4 best players. They're definitely not watching that many games that aren't featuring their team. I would definitely say hockey almost means kind of like a college sport, at least in our area, where a lot of people care a lot about the Capitals, but they don't care much about anything else.
That's how, I mean, I don't have the data to back this up. I'm just spitballing here, but that's how being a Canadian, the NHL in the USA feels to me. Now, I think it's a little bit different when you get into New England or even like upstate New York or Minnesota, places where it gets cold out, that maybe they do care a little bit more about the NHL rather than just local, where it feels to me, again, just spitballing about the MLS. MLS fans feel like they're underdogs, which they are. And it seems like they are more willing to go out and support MLS as a whole rather than just their local team. Like Toronto FC does big business in Toronto. Like they would sell out every game when I was there. And it was actually a pretty fun experience, despite the fact that I don't really like soccer all that much, especially like the 8th best soccer league on earth or whatever it may be. And they do have the ability to attract these like huge names and reach the international community. Like with Messi coming in, like that was a real thing. It's like when Beckham went to the LA Galaxy how long ago. Now, I'm never going to be the one to watch it, but it does seem like, someone in Seattle and they're the fan of the Seattle team might watch a Miami game I might be wrong about that, but I just feel like hockey's not really moving the needle, despite the fact that it used to be considered a big 4 sport in America. And that's just not the case. It does worse ratings than golf and NASCAR.
Yeah, you're right. And I think the question I would have, I know we're way off topic, this I think is really important to talk about, is when you look at US sports, you could say that everyone in the world agrees that the NHL is the pinnacle of professional hockey. The NBA is the pinnacle of professional basketball. The MLB is the pinnacle of professional baseball, although the Japanese might have an argument in some cases.
No.
And then you also have, the NFL. Well, it's really the only place that has good. I mean, Canadian football is decent.
It's different too. It's a different
very
game.
different. It's very different. But the NFL is the pinnacle, whereas MLS, like you said, is like number 8. You would have lots of different arguments on what's really the number 1 soccer league. And then you also have the problems with the national team. So it's not, there's no like one central, this is the gold standard for this sport. With soccer, it's spread all over the place.
Well, the nuts thing to me with the MLS thing is that everyone went crazy for the rights to us because Messi was coming to Inter Miami, was going to be the MLS. It's not like anybody was watching him on PSG when he was playing terrible French league teams. Nobody around me was ever like, oh, we need to watch Messi when he's playing Lyon this weekend in the French league. But I don't, so I never saw a huge difference. But like, it'll be a big story while he's here. It'll be sort of a big cultural story. But in terms of actually watching the games, I'm sure people will turn to the first couple Inter Miami games, then they'll turn it off. It's not going to be that big of a deal.
I would tend to agree with you. But I mean, my point was that MLS feels like a bad buy for Apple Plus. They knew they had to get into the sports. I think they have MLB like game of the night as well for each of the teams. I remember when they had a Yankees game last year, and Judge, I think, was going to break the home run, could have broken the home run record. Then like no one can figure out how to watch this game, although it's not that difficult to figure out.
$5 Apple TV Plus, you've got it. But let's also be real, Apple has not spent the money on their broadcast. They by far have the worst sports broadcasting presentation of any American streaming company.
Well, here's why they're all bad buys for them. And even like you talked about ESPN Plus, you have the NHL. It also has all of the UFC at the same time, which I actually think is a more valuable product to them than the NHL.
I would definitely agree.
And the difference between all of those, like we don't know whether or not the NFL is a good buy for Amazon. Sure, they're getting a lot of viewers, but they're also paying 3,000 times the price
They
for one
overpaid.
game for 17 games than people are paying for entire seasons of other sports. But at least they have the push through factor, right? That if you get an Amazon Prime, you have to get an Amazon Prime membership in order to watch the games on Amazon Prime, right? So what happens when you have an Amazon Prime membership? It's not the $80 or $125, $100, whatever it is per year that you get for getting Amazon Prime. It's now you have Amazon Prime and you might buy other stuff when you're on Amazon. Like that's where that's where they're hoping that they make their money from. It has nothing to do with the broadcast. It's all just a net to try to get people onto Amazon to buy more shit that they don't need. And I could see that being very valuable. We're obviously never going to know the metrics behind that. None of these other places have that. So unless it's super successful and you up your package price, like I don't understand the point of having it.
Yeah. And I think that's the trick. You've got to figure out what's the bubble of what is the real value of live sport licensing at this point. It drives advertising on live TV. We really have no idea what impact it has on streaming yet.
So should I put this part at the end of the show, do you think, if people click on this for the challenge? Be like, hey, we actually just spent 20 minutes talking about streaming rights. That might actually be a separate. It might be. I think
it ties in though. So it ties into our whole discussion though, is like, what's the real future of the challenge on the streaming platform? And it really depends on what happens with all of the things we just talked about. Like if Paramount Plus goes away, or let's say the budget gets reduced on Paramount Plus, my hunch is the challenge should be okay for All Stars, because when you boil it down to it, that show costs 2 pennies to produce compared to the Kiefer Sutherland show they have right now.
I think
it's called like Rabbit Hole or something like that.
You mean Fake 24?
Yeah, Fake 24. And then they have Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. Like they've got some really like pricey original content that no one's talking about.
Well, and the thing is,
oh, go ahead, Rob.
So my thing would be with that, what they should be doing. Are editors for the challenge part of the strike that's going on right now?
No.
So my thing, what they should be is airing the show on CBS and for the CBS format, and then do like a shit they should have shown and some other background content they just throw on the streaming platform. Because I think the show has enough like of the really bought in fans who'd want to watch pretty much anything challenge that comes out, where they'd be willing to buy the streaming platform for it, and they also get content now to air on their network that doesn't interfere with the strike that's going on right now. That's what I would be doing if I was them. That's the one thing I really wanted the show to do. I feel like we really miss having a shit they should have shown and some other just background content of people hanging out at the house. We just haven't had that in the past couple of seasons. So that's what I would be looking to do, is just throw that on the background on the streaming platform. And then if you usually air on CBS, air your sort of modified standard version of the show on CBS.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put this part of the episode at the end. And then we can, the discussion works in either format, but if people are here for the challenge, they'll probably want to hear first. So if people want to listen more about the streaming end of everything, then you can just hit the time codes and just jump to that part as we talk about sports and streaming, challenge and streaming, Paramount Plus, and all of the other derivatives of OTT platforms. We're here to talk about the cast. And since it's on CBS and you expect a bigger audience and a bigger budget, and now they've moved the MTV names over to CBS, which I really like to see. Are you surprised that CT isn't involved in this first one?
No, he was supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
He has a lot going on right now. Do you hope so for CT that everything ends up going okay? I think he just had family stuff going on that he can't get around.
He's getting
divorced. You cannot convince me that they were trying to do CT versus Bananas versus Wes, and then when they couldn't get CT, they were like, well, we have CT at home, and here came Corey, because he has the name recognition of being on Teen Mom. So from a Q factor, he would be more recognizable than someone else we might have preferred to be in that spot.
So are they trying to make it seem like we don't know what the teams are? Like, spoiler, there's 3 teams this season on Challenge USA. So I'm guessing it's some sort of a cutthroat format until they probably blow it up at some point, Rob. But
that would be the problem.
When they did the cast release on the official account and the trailer and everything, you can see the team split up into 3. But like when you go look at cast lists for who's on it, they don't show them in teams. Like they're pretending that other material isn't out there. It's really bizarre.
They do this all the time. I mean, they even have an image out of the cast in the teams. There's a very clear image of the green, the red, and the blue team just out in the open for everyone to see who everybody is. But they pretend like we don't know. I mean, look, there's been episodes in the past where, like, you know how they'll show like the next episode on at the end, where they'll cliffhanger the elimination, and you'll see somebody from the elimination that's on the next episode on at the end of the episode. So they're not trying to hide anything.
All right. So give us the teams, the cast list, Rob, for team number 1, the blue team, I guess.
So in the blue team, the 2 MTV vets are Tori Deal and Corey Wharton. Then we also have Alyssa Lopez, Alyssa Snyder, and Cassidy from Survivor. We have Fessy, Chris Underwood, and Sebastian, the last one also from Survivor. Then we also have the red team. That's the team that I think is going to be probably the most dramatic of any of the teams we have. That is Bananas and Janae as the MTV vets. And then we have Michelle, Tiffany, and Chanel, as well as Polly, Josh, and Dusty. Then for Team Green, that is Wes and Amanda as the vets. And then it's Michaela, Desi, Amira, Monty, Tyler, and Luis.
The Bananas team sounds really good.
It's fun. I think they'll be the most interesting by a decent amount, just having Bananas, Polly, and Josh on the team. And I love Michelle, so having her on the team as well. I think that'll have plenty of noise going on. From a competition perspective, I think they're all pretty even, though, from what I've seen. None of the 3 teams sticks out to me.
I mean, any team that has, like, if you're going to bring in a vet Trace, like Janae is, we'll see how she does against like this younger people at this point, because she's been dominating on All Stars. Obviously, we know that Tori is good, at least in terms of being a good athlete. Like Amanda kind of sucks. Like she's great TV, bad.
She's amazing TV. She was the only thing that made SLA watchable.
Oh, for sure.
But the funny thing with Amanda is like she was portrayed as really bad on SLA. Everyone was talking constantly about how she was bringing their team down. With nobody wanted her on her team. But on Final Reckoning, which wasn't that long ago, she and Zach were the best team most of that season. Obviously, Zach carried.
You're gonna say you have to remember that Zach is awesome.
Yeah.
I think she could still be useful on a team context. I think the rest of her team is pretty good.
Yeah, to me, the red team, the thing that could sabotage them is this is not spoilers. It's in the press releases, so it's out there. It says there's only going to be 1 man and 1 woman that win this season. So even though they're looking like they're divided up into teams, at the end of the day, only one of them can win. And so that might affect them being all singing Kumbaya and trying to win every challenge, because they might be trying to sabotage each other to give that person a better shot to win. So there's a lot of combustible personalities that are just on that red team.
Is it a marketing ploy to say that like Josh and Fessy and Michelle are from the other CBS shows, be it Survivor or Big Brother? Just as, oh, hey, I remember Fessy from Big Brother. I'll watch this challenge show that I've never heard of. Is that sort of what they're going for in terms of the marketing? Because, yeah, they all originated from those shows. They've done more seasons of the challenge at this point.
I would think so. I would think with what they're trying to do with the CBS property is make it more accessible to CBS audiences. So they're going to portray them as from their CBS show and not the MTV version.
So who are the people that we haven't seen on the challenge before that you think are going to be pretty good?
So out of the people who are on this cast, I think Monty, he's on the green team with the West. I think he'll be pretty good. He's a personal trainer for Big Brother. He was the runner-up on his Big Brother season. He shouldn't have to worry about winning jury votes. He's pretty big. He's an athletic trainer. He's got a good athletic background.
Yeah, he's pretty
I think he'll be pretty good. Yeah. I think he'll be pretty good. Alyssa Lopez, she was one of these. I feel like Big Brother has this every season where there's the girl who everyone says she's just casted because she's attractive, which look is probably 80% true.
Hey, wait,
but
she was on last season, wasn't she?
Excuse me, Melissa Snyder, not Lopez. That's my fault. Snyder, not Lopez. But she has a good athletic background too, so I think she'll be pretty good. I think most of these rookies will honestly be pretty capable. Sebastian from Survivor, I don't quite understand that casting choice, but all the rest of them I think are pretty good.
That one's the mind-boggling one to me. Is what the hell is Seabass doing there?
Yeah, who's that?
He was from Survivor Ghost Island. That was, you remember Dom from USA? That was his original season of Survivor. He was. I actually really like that season of Survivor. There's this character on it, Chris Noble, who I think would be perfect for the challenge. But Sebastian, he was, I think, like 5th or 6th place on that season. He didn't do that much. I found him a very bland character. So maybe producers saw something in him. I guess it's probably just an agent hire. That's why he's here, and he'll be out from the first 3 episodes. Yeah,
to me, the sleeper of the season, and he's on the wrong team, and that's what's going to hurt him, is Dusty on the red team. So he's from Amazing Race. He probably would have won his Amazing Race season had his partner not had some issues throughout the season, in terms of his partner actually went to jail falsely accused of murder. And so they ran the Amazing Race after he was exonerated of said murder. And his friend, when he would get flustered, would like have mental breakdowns. So God bless the man, for real. But Dusty, if his partner had been mentally able to keep it together, they would have dusted the whole season. He's super athletic, runs Ironmans, things like that. That guy can compete. The problem is he's on a team with Bananas, Polly, and Josh. So he is going to be the cannon fodder for their team to go into all the male eliminations if they're going in.
Do we have any idea how the eliminations are going to work?
So we can see there's like a lottery ball thing that they're drawing out at the beginning. And I believe both teams, like there's two teams you can see in their gear, which makes it look like there's two teams that are available to go into elimination. From the voiceover, it seems like you just draw a name, and once that name gets drawn, you're in. I would think that's how it works. So it seems like it could be pretty random in terms of who goes in. It seems like it definitely could be one of these things where Johnny could just be going in week 2 because his name just gets called.
I would have my doubts that's going to end up being the case. It's probably, well, what happened, Trace? What was the cutthroat style? It was the team that won was safe. Everyone was safe from that team. And then like the other two teams had to nominate the player from their team that they wanted to go in. Maybe it's the same way, but you nominate two players from your team. And then there's a lottery ball of which one goes in.
Yeah, that was the way they did it, was secret votes in that basement recording studio thing. And then whoever got, it was a secret ballot. And so whoever got the most votes for their team is who went in. For this one, my speculation is the winning team is safe and they get to nominate a player from each team. And then the lottery ball, or maybe what they're doing is the teams nominate and then everybody else is eligible with the lottery ball. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. That's the one thing I'm slightly worried about, because there were some really good deliberations on World Championship when you force these people to have to sit down and pick names. And when you do the random draws, I think we lose a little bit of drama and political play.
Well, it takes some of the drama out because we don't have the people yelling at each other then, right? They're just going into a booth and throwing a little lottery ball in, or they're just breaking the recording. They're not actually screaming at each other like Danny and Jordan were for most of last season. So I think that takes a little bit out of the show. I think it definitely adds a randomness element to it too. Do we think there's going to be like a Daniel Stern freezing the envelope with any of this ball drawing? Like are these MTV vets just going to be sit pretty for most of the season and not going to get their name drawn?
I would have to think so, yeah. Or the people from the challenge will know, like, what was it, the kill card year where Devin noticed like the trick to the kill card? That's why he never pulled it.
Yeah, it seems like every year they do that. There's always something where like, oh, this one's like bent a little bit a certain way, so half the cast figures it out, and then it's just the rookies who are going in constantly again.
What do you make of like the challenge people versus these other people in this format of the show? Because it's not like, Bananas is significantly more athletic. He's probably less athletic than a lot. He's also 40 compared to, you mentioned like one of the guys, a personal trainer. They have this Dusty guy is like a super good athlete. We saw Tyson when he was on USA 1 that he just kind of left everyone in the lurch. Like he was just way better than everyone else at every competition. So like athletically, I don't think that they're at much of an advantage. It's like just knowing the format and how the challenge works, their advantage.
I mean, I think there's a big advantage to knowing how to expend effort and how to like, how to do, what's the best way to accomplish certain tasks according to the challenge. Like having an idea, okay, I need to expend a lot of effort here. I don't need to worry about this that much. Knowing what to look for to kind of slither away and find a shortcut to accomplish a certain task. I think there's still that's still very valuable on the show. I mean, look, a lot of these CBS people also have that capability. Sonic Survivor and Big Brother have hugely different competitions sometimes from what the challenge is. So I think this will be a pretty even playing field cast wise. I at the very least think that these MTV guys will get a decent amount more screen time than their regular CBS brethren. It seems like they haven't highlighted it so far in the promotional material.
Now, sorry. The one thing I would add to that is I think there's just a certain level of understanding the challenge loopholes that helps those guys and gals out a lot. And I specifically flashed back to Total Madness. They had that one mission where they were in like the clouded fog or dark room and they had to memorize the stuff. And Bananas realized where he was positioned, he could see the lights reflecting from around the side. So instead of him running back into the glass, he just stood at his post and memorized it and did the puzzle. So there's things like that they're aware of that the CBS people might not be.
Bananas didn't win that though.
He didn't. He didn't win it on purpose though. He just didn't come in last.
That's impossible. I like that's ridiculous.
I like that's a very convenient Banana excuse. Whenever he doesn't win anything, it's I wasn't even trying to win.
That's fair.
That's ridiculous. Then why is he hacking it and showing everybody else a shortcut if he's not trying to win? And he did end up in the tribunal that episode because West picked him when he won with Maddie.
No, I can't explain that. I don't try to understand the mind of Johnny Bananas in a lot of cases.
No, he's just trying he's trying to make his money. That's what he's trying to do.
And he did.
But I mean, producing entertaining TV equals I'll be called back. If people see that I'm not a huge asshole 10 years later now that I can be on this reality show and that reality show and host my own travel show, that kind of thing. Like, that's kind of what he's doing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think with this guy should just probably be back, right? Like that's the big grab amongst all these people.
Paulie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm weirdly happy to see Paulie and Josh back, as crazy as that sounds.
I mean, Josh is at least you know how you have like the wide receiver who just gets like 6 catches every week and never has a big like blow up week, just consistent every week. If they just need TV time, something to throw on TV, they can always just cut to Josh. He's fighting with somebody. He's left food in the microwave. He has, accidentally punched somebody. He's always up to something. So I think he makes for a good like safety valve for the producers to have. And if you have him on a team with Johnny and Paulie, you'd assume there's going to be some sort of fireworks at least to start.
Yeah, I'm curious to see which kind of Paulie that we get. Josh just reminds me of the classic character. Like, he feels like a legitimate throwback to the era of the show that I like the best. Like, I know you guys are doing your Fresh Meat 2 walkthrough right now. Like, Josh could most certainly have been like the Ryan Kehoe of Fresh Meat 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's that level of competitor that you don't see get recast a lot in these main casts anymore. And the show kind of suffers because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the one like main recurring cast member you'd say is like an actual bad actor. Right. I think he's done a lot of work to improve himself over the years, but he's the one he would say they don't have necessarily the natural athletic gifts that a lot of these other people. He's more of just a jobber from a competition perspective.
Yeah.
He looks like he's in really good shape for the first time ever.
Yeah. He does look like he's really worked out a lot. So maybe he'll come on this season and be a lot better.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about on our podcast is like a good cast can save a bad format. And so as long as they edit the show well and this cast holds up, this really could be a good season. Because one of the dynamics I'm really excited about watching is, can Wes and Amanda coexist as the vets on their team? Because Wes is going to try to do his thing. Amanda's going to try to do her thing, and those things are not going to coincide very well. And so I'm really excited to watch Amanda and Wes try to work together.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's not even going to matter. Like, if somehow your team can influence who's safe and who's not on your team, then I would expect Paulie, Johnny, and Josh to work together and just keep themselves safe and screw everyone else on their team. And maybe Amanda doesn't seem to want to, like, Wes will go for that on his team, but it probably just won't work out. I mean, I mean, I've seen some beef between Tori and Amanda online. Like, unless that happens in the first 3 days that they're there, it seems like she's there. Do you think there's going to be a thing where, like, you can't vote in Johnny?
No, I don't think it'll be that. I mean, I think we could have a frozen lottery ball that has Johnny Bananas' name on it that TJ knows not to grab out of the thing. But I don't necessarily see there being like an explicit rule that these MTV vets have saved. Maybe it could be that there's like a mission or so in the beginning that they do, and then the MTV vets come in like after that. Like, the teams will be sorted out through some mission in the beginning that makes you eligible for elimination, and that's coming after that. So they'll get like a week or two by. But I don't think there being any outsized explicit rule in their favor.
The only reason that I think Pat may be onto something is there was a throwaway line in the trailer that's like, it said something along the lines of, when they're eligible to be put in elimination, you can bet I'm doing it. And so it could be that they have immunity for a certain amount of time as the team captains, and then they're eligible. So I think that is on the table.
Or maybe you can interpret that in different ways too. There could be like, well, there are team competitions. There could be individual elements of the team competition. And let's say you're the best on your team, even if your team loses, like, you have immunity or something like that.
Exactly. And so I would be betting that Wes and Bananas are the most likely to be the best, person on their team, even if they lose. So, you might not get too many shots at them. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Well, I don't know. In terms of daily missions, like in where we stand in 2023, Rob, I kind of think that Paulie's better, I would guess, if he's still the same than Bananas is.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually was pretty impressed by Bananas on Ride or Dies. I thought he performed pretty well athletically throughout that season. It's funny he still hasn't seemed to figure out puzzles yet. In the amount of years he's been on the show, puzzles still stump him. You would have thought he would have, been doing tangrams on his phone or something to figure that out. But I would guess it'll be really interesting to see what mentality Paulie comes in at with here, right? If he can come on this beyond 11 Paulie mode where he's screaming and fighting with people. I mean, the thing is, he was able to like cause mayhem and have all these rivalries and chaos and still basically make the final every season he was on before. So that has worked for him before. I'm just curious if he does that, or if he's going to be a bit more tempered in the house.
I think he knows that if he's more tempered, well, it might strain a relationship with the cast. That is his best way to get back in with the show and get recast over and over and make that money. That he needs to be a character. People don't like the Paulie character, but he's great. It's just like Josh. Like no one likes the Josh character, although he seems to be like a fine guy in real life. That he needs to be crying and yelling at all times. That's what gets you back on the show.
Yeah.
I remember so much when he on World of Worlds 2 specifically, everyone was like, "Oh, we can't have Paulie and Cara anymore. We need them off the show." And Charlie, I'm like, "Guys, you will miss them when they're gone." And I think that was very much the case.
I mean, I don't think I want to see them together. Is the thing. Like and Cara is going to be what on All Stars 4?
Yes.
He'll be on All Stars 4.
Yeah, and then Paulie's on this season. Like I like breaking it up like that a little bit. That it's almost like the Jordan and Tori thing, where it just becomes too much of the same thing over and over, and then you just start actively. I mean, people don't seem to actively dislike Jordan, although he's just as culpable as Tori is in all of this in terms of that storyline getting beaten down. But at least Jordan takes seasons off, so then you kind of forget about him, and then when he comes back, you're happy to see him. And this is what, like 10 in a row for Tori?
Yeah, I think the difference
she's eligible.
I think the difference between Jordan and Tori though is Jordan's a clout chaser, but I also feel like he has a life outside the show. Like right now he's doing professional race car driving. I can't remember. He's like in the supercar series or some weird, race car series out there.
CW.
Probably. Actually, I think it's on like Fox Sports 2, so it's even lower than the CW. But then like Tori, she's like positioned as like the female face of the show post Cara, only she's not as good and not nearly as entertaining. And so I think there is a resentment factor that a large segment of the fan base has towards her.
I mean, everyone was saying the same thing about Johnny and Cara again a couple years back, that they need to take seasons off. And maybe that wasn't the worst thing for them. I just think whenever you're in that position where you're the female and male face of the show, particularly when the seasons haven't been very good, there's just a lot of fan backlash that develops against you.
Well, it doesn't seem like, do you want to talk about toxic fandom? Like the challenge is bad. I went down this Big Brother rabbit hole the other day on Twitter, and it was mind-boggling. They were accusing this guy of being a pedophile because he was dating a 22-year-old. I feel like we just use words that we don't know what they mean anymore.
It's just, I will say, I'm somebody who obviously I'm with Pat talking about the show right now on his media network. So I'm not somebody who's not a fan of the show, but the people who like have the profile picture of the people from the show and just either go completely for or completely against people they've never met in real life or have had very tertiary small interactions with in real life. I just can't wrap my head around that. That's so crazy to me.
I just want I want a good TV show. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the thing you see with Paulie too, is it's crazy that it feels like being tempered is what gets you cast on the show now, right? Like it's great. Like so many of these people, them being problematic and causing drama, entertaining content was why they were on the show, and now it's why they're kicked off.
Yeah, and that like in our rewatch of the Fresh Meat 2 right now, it's astounding. These rookies came in and just breathed fire into the show. They were partying and sloppy and messy and hooking up, and then sucking for the most part in a lot of the challenges and exiles. But it was so entertaining. Like they really brought it. And I just can't understand the shift unless, just we're in a different, I call it the over reliance on Twitter for feedback. You know what I mean? Like Twitter it's good for instant feedback and it is good for promotion. It is good to get your stuff out there. But there's a lot of just troll accounts that go out there and stir shit up. And that's not the real opinion of the majority of people watching your property.
No, I completely agree. And maybe it is more for the challenge because it's a cable show. The ratings are significantly lower than just your overall season and episode of a Big Brother or a Survivor or even an Amazing Race. Like it's more of a niche show that it does seem like Rob said, like, not all the people who are complaining on Twitter all the time or complaining on Reddit all the time are the basis of all of this. But it seems like there's a higher percentage of the audience that watches the challenge that are those people versus the other ones where it might be louder with Big Brother, but that's like 2% of the audience. The other 98% don't give a shit about any of this. But they were like legitimately trying to get a guy thrown off the show because he was 35 and was dating a 22-year-old. Like that's not how this works.
Not at all. It's like, it's interesting, like the Big Brother fandom. So one of my really good friends that lives in Virginia, her partner, he loves Big Brother, watches every season, would never dare watch the challenge. But the second he heard that members of the Cookout were going to be on USA 1, he was riveted to the TV every week. So it kind of shows to me that like the Big Brother fans, like, they really do follow that cast where they go if they know about it. But here's the kicker. Despite being a fan of Big Brother, he had never watched the challenge on MTV when Fessy and Josh and Morgan and those people were on there, because it just wasn't, he just doesn't pay attention to cable. But when he heard about Challenge USA, he was like, oh, I'll watch that. So it just shows the difference between cable and bigger broadcast networks too.
I do think the accessibility of the show is an issue. One issue I think the show has is I don't think necessarily the quality of the product really dictates how much money they end up making from the product. Like, I think they can put out a bad season all the time. We see, if you just go back and look at the ratings, you'll see these episodes be regarded as amazing episodes, great seasons that just ratings wise did not pick up. Like Fresh Meat 2, which a lot of people like as a season, had historically really bad ratings when it aired. And I think the show, just from an accessibility standpoint, it is kind of hard to like bring people in from a concept perspective to the challenge compared to other shows. Like Survivor's a very easy pitch. You put a bunch of people on an island. They're going to work and scheme and get show Lord of the Flies style to get to the end where one of them will get voted on as the winner. Big Brother, same thing, but just inside of a house. Amazing Race, they're going to all these, well-known locations that people want to travel to and go and complete all these tasks. Like, how do you pitch the challenge to one of your friends when you explain the show?
I mean, I can't pitch it the same way that I used to, but I did sell a lot of people on the challenge back in the day. Rob, I think I sold you. I think you're doing this podcast because did you hear about the challenge through me?
Oh, yeah. No, I was watching your football content, and then I remember we were talking about football stuff, and you were saying, well, I don't have anything for that right now, but we have this show called The Challenge, which I'm too busy, so I can't run the fantasy game for anymore. Do you want to just take that over? I was like, all right, sure. So I found it out that way, and then now, of course, I'm doing a show about the challenge.
Yeah, we passed 300 episodes now, Rob. You're considered a challenge expert now.
But in terms of pitching it, it's like, I would pitch it in the same sort of sense, like physical competition, like weekly, like two people will face each other, one will go home. In between, it's people drinking and having sex and fighting with each other. But they don't do that part anymore. So I don't know how to sell it.
Yeah. The way I used to sell it was recurring storylines revolving around reality-based competition and drama, because what happened in the previous season does affect the next season, especially in the golden era when you were running Gauntlet 3 up through Rivals 2 and Free Agents. Stuff that happened the previous season played into the relationships and alliances and everything in the next season. It was really a unique reality show property, because Survivor would do these all-star seasons, but the cast would be, several years removed from their previous season, or maybe there's just one or two people. Whereas on the challenge, it's like, hey, half the cast was here last year, probably. So there's issues still boiling to the surface from the previous season. So it was a lot easier sell to get people to watch it because every season mattered. Whereas with Survivor, it's like, I'm just going to skip this season. I'll see what they do next year.
Do you think that it matters? Because the era that you're talking about is obviously my favorite. Basically, whatever era that you come into as a part of the show, I think you will consider to be the best era because you're of that time. And Tracy, you and I are around the same age. Rob is younger. And I remember watching Real World seasons and be like, oh, I hope this guy goes to the challenge. And then they would. So around, from basically, fresh meat. I mean, I watched Inferno 2 live. So I've been watching live since then, basically. And that's a good time to jump in because that's kind of where the entire series modernizes in a lot of ways for that period until it modernizes again. But we didn't see the people, like why people hated Cara Maria. She was on 10 seasons in a row. Why do people hate Tori right now? Because she's been on 6 or 7 in a row. That just never happened then. You'd see a lot of recurring characters, but usually if you were on one season, it'd be very, very small chances that you'd be on the next season, which was good.
I feel like even really big characters usually run like a 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4 type plan where there'd be a break for them every couple seasons, which now, I mean, some of these people are just running it back without any sort of break. And
I don't begrudge them for doing that. You get, hell, Tori's probably getting $100K just to show up or something like that. Like, why wouldn't you take the bag?
Why does Anissa keep showing up? She gets the money at this point, like there it is. And the other thing too is people used to talk about like the JEK, which for those of you who don't know, that's Johnny, Evan, and Kenny. They complain, oh, they run every season. Well, they were only really on 3 seasons together where they worked together. I mean, they were on the duel, but Johnny was gone. Kenny and Evan weren't working together on the duel. You fast forward to Gauntlet 3. Oh, they're all 3 back together again, but Johnny's gone pretty fast. So really the only seasons where all 3 of them worked together was the Ruins and Rivals. Now, granted, usually you had Johnny and Kenny together, or sometimes I don't even think Evan and Kenny did a season without Johnny. So like everybody that complains about that era really doesn't think back to the way the cast was structured back then. You didn't do 5 seasons in a row. You might do 1 or 2 and then get 1 or 2 off. Like even Bananas, he did the island and then you didn't see him again until the ruins. So you got some time off.
And like, I think the big thing that goes through it is that these are still reality TV characters. And I felt like the people were more of a character 10 years ago when they weren't completely afraid to lose their jobs because they did something on the show that was like terrible or said something that was terrible. Like, it's not that you couldn't lose your spot on the show because you were an absolute scumbag, but that was sort of more encouraged behavior back then because it made for better TV. Frankly, like I don't tune into The Challenge to see my heroes and my moral compass. I tune on to see shitty people do shitty things and like entertain me. Like, why was the Jersey Shore so popular? Because of that. Snooki got punched in the fucking face on Jersey Shore. Like, there's no way that would air today.
There was an episode of just the Real World Portland where Naya attacked Jordan with a hairdryer, tried to bash him in the head. Like, it wasn't that long ago that was the way reality TV was, and now it's like very sanitized compared to where we were. I mean, God forbid you go back to 1999 on some of the Real World Road Rules properties where they're having pregnancy scares on Real World Vegas 1.
I mean, I think that's just a larger community-wide thing, though. Everyone's now like knowing about this things being possible to be spread online, and that can come back to bite you in some certain way. Like, it amongst me and my friends. Like, we're in an area where a lot of people are employed by like federal intelligence contract. A lot of people have government work, whether they will go through your back and they will check all your social media and all that stuff. So I think people are just kind of known to condition them ways to certain selves, particularly when they know that it can be filmed.
But I think this is where Bravo has really stepped in and created a huge market for themselves because their shows kind of feel like reality shows from 15 years ago.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you could even say that about the Learning Channel, which used to be about, learning things. Now they're showing MILF Manor. So, trashy TV is still out there.
It's because what the acronym for TLC is, right?
Is it still the Learning Channel? Or
it is still that they just call it TLC, but it stands for the Learning Channel, and they just rebranded to TLC. You're learning about MILF Manor, so I guess technically they're not wrong.
One of my friends is a big fan of the show Crack Addicts, doing that show on TLC.
Is that the actual name of a show?
That's an actual.
Do you guess what it's about?
Crack Addicts?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy pitch. I'm developing a reality show. I'm developing a reality show right now, and like one of the things that we talked about is like, how do we name this so people can identify exactly what this is about? And we were like, we ended up landing on a title. It's like, all right, that works.
Yeah. Crack Addicts is about chiropractors, by the way. It's not actually about people.
Oh, well, that sucks. And now you've taken my point and stolen it.
Well, I think that's the point. Is they loop you in with like, wow, what are these people going to be up to? And then it's like, oh, she's just like cracking somebody's shoulder. Yeah, people still tune in anyways.
But yeah, TLC also has like what Dr. Pimple Popper. It's just her popping giant zits. Yeah.
I don't get that world. That is not my scene.
It's not my scene. People love that fucking show.
I know, it's all over the frick on HBO Max or Max, whatever the hell it's called this week. Like, it's been like front and center on my banner as Dr. Pimple Popper, and I'm just like, what the hell why is this here? I used to watch The Sopranos here. Now Dr. Pimple Popper's in my face. So, but anyway, so kind of the other piece of this conversation with the branding, the Challenge is like a really strong name, but I think the other twist to that is how do you get across what the challenge is? And so having this conversation, it's like that Survivor makes sense. Big Brother makes sense. Love Island makes sense. The Challenge is a brand name, but to someone who's never heard of it, what's the challenge? What's the challenge?
I had a point that I was trying to make a little bit earlier, and I kind of glossed over it by rambling on as I do, that Rob, like the 3 of 4 seasons, 2 of 4 seasons, every second season, whatever it is, that I felt like those people had more character to them anyway, but you still kind of divvied it up because it's kind of like the Creed in The Office type thing, where if you featured Creed every single week on The Office, you'd get sick of Creed because he just doesn't have that much character. And I even think like from that golden era of the show, these people didn't have that much character, but you didn't see them as much. So you were happy to see them. Whereas now, when you get the same people who have even less character every season and you don't get a break, that's what's really hurting everything.
I agree. Plus, when you combine that with the sort of hallmark style of editing that they do now, where it's just a lot of this sort of the same storyline over and over and over and over and over again, it just doesn't work. Like you're not getting you're not getting any dynamism in the storyline already, and when you're having the same principal characters come up again and again and again, the storyline just becomes so exhausting.
I mean, there's also the elephant in the room with the main show as well, that it became a victim of its own success because it started doing pretty well and consistent numbers over time. They're like, well, let's take this from 10 episodes that are an hour long to 13 that are an hour long. Well, how about 13 that are 90 minutes long? How about 19 that are 90 minutes long? There's just not that much compelling content to put on TV.
It's crazy too, because you hear that, and then you also hear about how there's like 18 things that the cast talked about that happened on the season that actually seem pretty interesting and funny, and it still doesn't make air somehow, even with as much content as they're putting out there.
And it's and like the locations that they've picked, like a one-off season, like Total Madness, sure, something like that. And I know a lot of it had to do with COVID restrictions. And I know that you guys talk about this a lot on your show, and it's always something that I've always hammered down on, is that I enjoy the show more when people are having fun, which usually means in the sun, having drinks, bikinis, in the pool, that kind of thing.
For sure. Nobody wants Total Madness where the cast is just like lying around, barely wanting to move when they're not during missions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to key up on one last thing you said there for a second ago about the cast, the show works best when you've got superstars at the top, but your supporting cast is equally important and has storylines. Like when we talk about Pat, our golden era, Dunbar was a huge side character, but he was never the main character, but he had storylines. I mean, he had his Paula issues. You had him being grumpy on the island. You had his argument with Kellyanne on the ruins. Like, these side supporting characters still played a role. And if you look at it from a pro wrestling standpoint, you had your curtain jerkers like Danny Jameson and Tyree, who everybody knew was never going to win, but they would provide something entertaining for you at the beginning of the season while they were still around. You know, Tyree passing out on the toilet in Rivals 2 is still one of the funniest things I've ever seen on reality TV, as well as his hookup with Jasmine on Rivals 1. Some of that stuff is just dynamite content, makes me laugh, entertains the hell out of me, but I know he'll be gone next episode, so it's fine. But the challenge works best when you have a balanced cast that can give you quality content.
And it's always fun to see that too. That's why it's funny that it's really been Josh who's been kept around in that role, because he's never really been elevated to, because he's not that great of a competitor. He's more of a personality. But I would think I think Paula, Sarah, and Kara are kind of the best examples of this, where they were just on the show a lot. No one knew if they were any good or not. They weren't huge personalities, but because they were on every second season or whatever it was, they started getting better and they kind of evolved into being some of the best people on the show. And then they got to the pinnacle and they wouldn't stop doing the show. I mean, I'm kind of glad that Paula got herself out based on like what she was going through in her personal life. She seems to be very happy now, but like Paula was a character. That's really all she was. She was a good competitor, not a great competitor, until we got a little bit later on when she kind of got her shit together a little bit and got two amazing partners to win seasons. But like, she wasn't a primary focus of the show really ever, but she always had her own standalone storylines, which was great.
Grace is that number one female competitor of all time, by the way, Paula.
What's that?
I did. I
was on that show. That. We talked about it.
You were on that show.
He was on the show.
I forgot you were on that show. What do we think? Like when we watched the first two episodes of this season, what are sort of like the 4 or 5 things we're looking for in those episodes? Like, okay, they got something right here. Like we things are moving in a good direction.
I just want to see someone in someone's face pointing and yelling and potentially throwing a drink.
Thank you, Amanda.
That's probably where that's going to come from. That's my big thing. I really think the show thrives on rivalries, on interpersonal relationships that have a lot of heat going between each other. Sometimes that can be kind of up and down from a friends to enemies perspective, like a Laurel and Cara situation. But I think when you look at the best seasons of the show, so much of that is motivated by 2 cast members just going at each other and having an issue with each other. I think that's what's been lacking a lot. So we just haven't had dynamic rivalries the past couple of seasons. So I would hope to see sort of the burgeoning storylines of 2 or 3 people who really do not like each other and are going to be working to get each other out throughout the season.
So I just give me like the quick like 10-second pitch on some of these people. Like Michaela was on 1 episode of the challenge. I thought she was going to be really good, but she was gone instantly.
She should be good. She was a lot of drama on her season of Survivor. She's somebody who should be pretty athletic too. She should be a good competitor. I think if she's given the chance, I think she could really show up here.
What team she on, Trace?
She's on green.
Okay, thanks, Trace.
Sorry. I didn't realize.
I wouldn't have known the answer to that question anyway, Pat.
All right. Cassidy Clark looks kind of hot.
You know more about her than I would, Trace.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Is that it? Like, she had for the little bit I did read about her, she had some weird like MMA type background. So maybe she'll be like fighting with people and stuff.
Luis Colon or Cologne. Maybe is he Bartolo's son?
Yeah, so
I
he's
hope
actually the other sleeper I've got from Amazing Race. So he was excellent on his Amazing Race season, and I think he's the guy that Wes is going to pick as his number 2 to kind of help run his team. He's really smart, really athletic, and he was one of the people that put together, like one of the challenges they had on Amazing Race is they had to assemble a motorcycle, and he was the first person to figure out assembling the motorcycle on that episode. And so I think from athletic and puzzles, if he has someone like Wes to guide him, he's a sleeper.
He also
So we're saying if this is like a Gauntlet 2 where they have to build a bike and stuff, then the green team's got a huge advantage.
I forgot about that shot. Man, I think I'm just going to go back and watch Gauntlet 2 instead of watching this.
It's a good season.
I love Gauntlet 2. It is
Good.
Like if you had to like power rank, maybe this is one that you guys can really dig into when you're looking for your lists in the off season, although not much of an off season anymore. Challenge Chronicles podcast, by the way, you can get the link down in the description of my show if you're looking for that. But is that the season where the cast is legitimately having the most fun?
That and Gauntlet 3.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't buy into it as nearly as much as you guys do on Gauntlet 3. I think there's
Rob smoking dope on this one. Gauntlet
I am
3.
not. You
Oh man,
watched
Gauntlet
actual
3
season,
just seemed like a party.
It was a
The
giant
rookies
party.
team hated each other. They were constantly yelling at each other throughout that whole season.
Yeah, but Rob, you have
Everything
to
on that
understand
season was
that
great.
sometimes people like to argue with each other. They find that fun.
If you go back and watch that season, I think that there's a lot of toxicity burbling underneath the surface. Gauntlet 2, I would definitely agree. Gauntlet seems like a very fun season.
Yeah.
Inferno 2 seemed
Gauntlet-
like a lot of fun too.
Yeah. I think that was just a stretch of seasons where just the main sort of fulcrum of the cast had a lot of positivity, and everyone was willing to just have a good time.
Inferno 1 is probably also one of the big fun party seasons as
yeah.
well. I mean, that elimination between, was it Leah and Kendall, where everybody's hammered and what's his name runs naked through the elimination.
David Burns, yeah.
I mean, and then you've got CT in a thong during the cruise ship challenge. Like, there's a lot of fun going on in that era.
There's a lot of downtime in that season. There's a lot of fun moments too.
And they were in Mexico and they were like allowed to leave the house. So they would like leave and, from what I allegedly heard, go buy drugs and alcohol and, consume them at the house. And that also added to some of the drama. Just saying.
That's great. It sounds awesome. Tyler Crispin from Big Brother 20 and Big Brother 22. Does he have a fucking ring around? Oh no. He has a necklace with a ring on. Is that his pumice wing?
I have no idea about that.
I
But
have no idea.
I will say he was the runner up on Casey's season of Big Brother. A lot of people felt he should have won that season.
Did people look at his fucking bracelets and were like, yeah, no thanks, pal. Take a hike.
So he was dating Angela, I think, from USA 1. I
right.
believe that was the
Kick
case.
this
I
guy
think-
off and get her on. She was great.
They broke up.
Well, we don't need to see this guy ever again then.
People were excited to see him come on, so I have no clue what that situation is going to develop into. But I think he'll at least be interesting to see on the show.
Back to this Luis guy. Do you have a picture? Are you looking at a picture of Luis?
I know what he looks like.
I know what he looks like, yeah.
When I go to the barber shop, when I first moved to Toronto, apparently I lived in Little Portugal and didn't even know it, just where I got a place and walked around, and they gave me this haircut when I told them what I wanted. And I was like, what have you done to me? It doesn't look good on me. It looks good on him. It does not look good on
that.
me.
Yeah, I can't imagine that haircut, especially you being on camera. I'd have just gone and done exactly what you have now as soon as I saw that haircut.
I was going to say, did you just buzz that afterwards, or what'd you do?
Well, I couldn't because they put the stupid line in my head.
Oh, man, you had to just ride it out for a month.
Yeah, I just had to wait for my hair to grow back, and I was like, I look like an idiot.
That would be like me getting a fade. It just wouldn't work.
You should get the Patrick Mahomes broccoli haircut. That's so influential with children of Rob's age.
I'm literally going to get a haircut today, which is why I have the hat. But it's like, you can't see it because of the hat hair. But it's so humid in Alabama right now. My hair just poofs out like an afro if I don't wear a hat.
So Michelle's on the show, Rob. Are me and you like Michelle's two biggest fans?
I trying to think of one of her biggest fans. I love Michelle. I'm very happy she's on. I think most people are pretty in on Michelle at this point. The only episodes that have been entertaining the past couple seasons are episodes where she's at the center of it. She just, it's funny, you compared her to Kellyanne one time, which I think is a pretty good comparison. I think she's a little bit more strategic than Kellyanne is, but she's definitely got the vibe of somebody who people might like personally, but they'll still find some reason to have a problem with her on the show. So I'm very happy she's here.
When I said that she was a lot like Kellyanne, who, near and dear to my heart, Kellyanne, especially from those old seasons, but she has a flightiness, Michelle and Kellyanne do, to them where like, oh, they're kind of aloof in a weird way, and they're non-committal in a weird way, and it seems like they change their mind every 20 seconds. Like they want to do what's right and what they set out to do, but they can't figure out what that is exactly.
It's why I think Michelle is actually better suited to the challenge than Survivor. I know she won her season of Survivor, but I still can't wrap my head around quite how she did it. I think she kind of fell into that win more than she was just this amazing strategic player, because it was clear on Winners at War, they were just using her as a vote and then a scapegoat by the time they got to the end. And so I think she's better suited to the drama and, like you said, the almost uncertain aloofness. And because the cast is fed and there's alcohol involved, it kind of ratchets up the drama with her. So I think she's way better suited for the challenge than she ever was for Survivor. That's just my opinion.
She won one season of the Survivor and made the final of the all winners season of Survivor. So I think she can definitely be more competent than has come across in these past couple of seasons. But look, she's just somebody who seems to find her way into interesting rivalries, which is what I want on people. I want people who are fighting with Laurel, fighting with Amanda. I don't want people just hanging out.
Yeah, I agree. Like she finds her way to get into conflict, which is amazing. Also, mega babe. Love it.
I agree with that too. So you asked for the 10-second pitch of the 4 things we want to look for. So I think Amanda just arguing with everybody is on the table. If she has an argument in the first episode, we're on a good path. I think the other thing is
no explosions.
Yeah, no. Well, that's going to happen. That's happening. The pyro's coming.
How much of their budget they spend on that? It's got to be. It's definitely way too much.
It's way too much. You would be shocked if you heard the number.
Well, Trace, you work for Big America when it comes to corporations. And I mean, anyone out there who works this kind of job knows when it comes to budgets for things, if you don't spend your budget one year, you don't get an increase in your budget the following year. So if you don't use all the explosion budget, well, you're never getting it again.
Yeah,
it's the Michael Scott. We need to get the chairs or the printers so that they don't take the money from our budget the next year.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. The other thing I look for, did Polly and Bananas make a preseason, or did that become a byproduct of this season? Because they're very chummy on Twitter and in pictures that I have seen on social media. So I'm worried a little bit about, did they squash their beef prior to the season? Because if they did, there might not be nearly as much conflict on the red team as there could be. But if the beef was not squashed until the course of the show, then we're in again for some good content.
I would think that there's probably more animosity between Polly and Josh than Polly and Bananas. I never really thought that there was that much between them in terms of Bananas. It just seemed like people didn't like Polly because he was super annoying. Not that they personally disliked him.
I think there was some personal distaste towards the end when you hear about the rumors of the cast banding together to get him not allowed to be on the show anymore.
We don't even know that that's all a rumor. It's just like when people are blacklisted and they're not getting calls, they're getting fucking calls.
I will say that I'm usually with you on that stuff. I think with that one specifically, there was a bit more credibility where Sharks was rolling enough. I think I buy into that a little bit more than some of the other conspiracy.
And I think most of the problems between Bananas and Polly were really problems between Bananas and Cara, and Polly was just kind of gaslit by Cara to amp it up a little more. That's my guess, my speculation. I think that Bananas and Polly would probably get along fine if Cara wasn't there stoking the fire.
Yeah, we'll see how that ends up playing out. Dusty Harris from Amazing Race 33, who you mentioned earlier, should be pretty good. One thing I don't want to see happen early in the season is here's our Big Brother alliance. Here's our Survivor alliance. And here's our Challenge People alliance, which fucks the Amazing Race people because there's 2 of them to begin with. But I don't like that as a part of the show. And maybe people do. It's just not for me.
I think the people who come in with one of those groups that are really repping, like if you're just a big Survivor person or a big Love Island person, I can see where they kind of buy into those narratives. I think it'll be a bit more dynamic than that, though. I think enough of these people just don't get along, where it's not going to be so formulaic. It's okay, here's the challenge, here's the Big Brother, here's the Survivor. They're all in one group.
The only way that works, Pat, is if you do a season where you're specifically going Team Big Brother versus Team Survivor versus Team Challenge. Aside from that, that narrative doesn't fly for me either. I'm with you.
Chanel Howell from Survivor 42.
I'm not a fan.
Don't like her, huh?
It seems like she should be pretty capable, right?
I don't know. She was just really, really annoying on her Survivor season, and so I'm not excited.
We need somebody who's a little bit annoying sometimes.
Amira Jones, Big Brother 24. Great eyes. But
yeah, she
tell me.
She was like known as like the villain of her Big Brother season. She had a pretty big role and then was voted out kind of early. She was like the person who was the Titan of the season, who's the puppet master controlling everything, and then was voted out early, from what I can gather.
Oh, I just got an email from Cameo telling me to get back on Cameo for fantasy football season. How much money do you think Cust would make on Cameo?
He could do pretty good.
I feel
he
like
actually would do pretty good because your Twitter feed is mostly people wanting Cust to do stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like the thing is too, because it'd be a two-pronged Cameo thing with him. You have people who would ask him to talk about how the Nuggets are going to do really good in the NBA this year, or how the Clippers are a lock to make the NBA Finals because they're obviously trying to have the reverse those outcomes happen. But you'd also have people who just wanted to try to like say, hey, can you make a French toast? Can you make a French toast recipe on Cameo? Can you do, pitch a tent on Cameo? Just do like these random activities on Cameo just to watch him attempt to do them. So I think he would be very profitable.
That's honestly your reality show right there, is Cuss tries to do stuff.
We've pitched this like 4 times in the past 6 years. Cuss Does is the name of the show. But he won't do any of it.
But
he'd make a lot of money if he did.
He really won't do it, but he claims he can do most of these things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way he can continue to claim that he can do most of these things, is by never attempting them.
I guess that's fair.
So the real question, Pat, is how does he actually do on the golf course? Because
I shot my worst round of the year this morning, so that was not good. I'm not good at playing golf at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's just
no one is. You have to have a couple beers in you.
10 o'clock, I need to go and warm up. I was like late getting to the course. I was kind of hungover from last night and just no practice shots and just woods. I was like, oh my God. And I played yesterday too. So I was very stiff coming through. I need to loosen up my hips a little bit.
There you go.
Gus used to be like a legit 88 to 92 golfer. Now he's a legit 98 to 110 golfer. I don't know what happened.
What? It just fell out of practice, I guess.
He's playing just as much. Everyone else that we know got better and he somehow got worse. So Alyssa Lopez,
I just don't have the time.
Alyssa Lopez is back. I don't remember her actually being good at stuff besides not getting voted in until the very end last year.
She was fine. She had her big moment, I would say. I think she had at least one mission win. And then she also won that elimination with Leo, where they had to like put the trivia mission where they had to like put the things up, which when winning with Leo when he was going up against Kyle, I think it's pretty good. I liked her on the show. I thought she was good TV. I think she'll be I don't know that she'll be super out in front from a TV perspective. Like, I don't think she'll be a huge character, but as a background character, I think you'll do a lot worse.
Yeah, I like her a lot. John,
I love her. I love her because I just like seeing her on my TV. Yeah, I think she's pretty hot. Just saying.
This is a very attractive cast. I will say
it is a very. There's another show you guys could do. Most attractive cast.
There you go.
I mean, this one even improves. Like I said, Josh looks like he's in pretty good shape. He's far more attractive these days than he was 5 years ago.
He had a lot of baby fat on him several years ago. Like, he just looked kind of like that weird transition phase a lot of men go through where they're just kind of husky until they lean out.
Well, the secret thing with all these casts, even this cast, who's the youngest person on this cast? Are they like below 26?
I don't know. How old do you think Josh is?
We looked this up once. He's older than you think he is. He's like 34, 35.
No, he's younger than you think he is. He's only 29.
I would say like 20.
He's only 29.
I think he's 29. I don't think he's
that makes sense then why 4 years ago he seemed like a puppy who hadn't quite grown into his paws yet. So that makes perfect sense.
I don't think so. I think that like he finally came to the realization, like, if I don't work out, like, I legit have no we just saw that Anissa could have won a season with Jordan on Ride or Die.
That's fair.
With the way that it was structured.
Still makes my brain hurt, by the way,
But all Josh is now, it's like, what if I actually got into shape and I am gifted one of those opportunities? Like, I could win if I'm in decent shape. So
if Devin can win a season, Josh can win a season.
But Devin's another one. Like, Devin got into pretty good shape.
Yeah, but he wasn't like he was in good shape. I don't want to disparage him because he did get in better shape. But when you still look at him, he just looks like the normal guy you might see at the coffee pot at the office in a lot of cases.
I mean, maybe, but you're also comparing him next to, like, he's also constantly standing next to people who are ripped and in great
Jordan
shape too.
Well, I was gonna say because like I work. I probably active for like between 3 and 4 hours a day. I work out a lot. I eat a very good diet. Like I'm in pretty good shape. But like I always struggle with where average person who's in good shape would kind of rank on the show. Because my perception from an outsider's perspective, I actually think Josh and Devin, if you put them amongst regular people, would actually be in very good shape. I would think they're like top 20%
of people on the show or people in real life.
In real life,
people in real life.
Yeah, but
people
what I'm saying is, I don't think that Josh was. I don't think Josh had ever
Mhm.
worked out a day in his life before he got on the challenge.
And I don't think he'd actually like put the research and like actually worked out. He might have like picked
he
up
might have
something.
jogged, but he wasn't lifting
Yeah.
weights and watching his macros.
I mean, he most definitely was not jogging.
No, and I would say now he's probably, if you just grab a bunch of random people in his age bracket, he probably isn't like the top 20% or so.
So this Tiffany Mitchell from Big Brother 23 is 42 years old.
Yeah, she was on USA 1. She was on it for a couple episodes from that season. She was a big star coming off of her Big Brother season. I will say that. Her Big Brother season was known as like being one of the best seasons in a while. Had a lot of narratives people really bought into. She and Kylan were two characters that people really took to from that season. I'm very surprised by the Kylan ended up as an alternate for this season. He wasn't actually on the main cast.
Isn't he
There
on
a lot of people?
Isn't he on season 39?
He was on 39.
So that's probably why.
Well, Michelle is too.
Yeah, but maybe Michelle's one survivor.
I guess I was surprised to not see him here. I would have thought he would have made it on.
Yeah,
But I think Tiffany will have a narrative while she's here at the very least. I think she'll have score more fantasy points if she has a better chance than winning the show.
and just your hookup points are going to be pretty low when you're 42.
There's plenty of other things people do. That's not even really a big generator of points anymore. It's all just about fights and politics.
Yeah. I mean, and there's if you paying attention to Instagram, there's some spoilers on hookups from AS4 floating out there that are actually together and living together now. That was news to me the other day.
Oh, they're
Would not have expected that.
They're living, because I saw that pop up. They're living together.
That's what I was told.
And I was glad to see her back and him back too, actually.
Both. I was real excited. So when people watch the season, they'll figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah. So we still have Desi from last season, who I really liked. Fessy, slam ball participant. Fessy is on the show. Monty Taylor, you mentioned, was he a personal trainer? He looks like he's in good shape.
Yeah.
And Tiffany, that was it. That's the entire cast. So do we think one of the actual challenge people is going to win?
That's the funny thing I've been trying to figure out is where would you set the odds for this? I mean, I think this is the best outcome for this season is if Paulie and Amanda win. That's the optimal outcome from an entertainment perspective.
Well, let's talk about that. I actually have the optimal winner for the men. I don't know who it would be for the women, but best case scenario for this show, I think, is if Corey wins.
Why?
Because
I need to hear this. Yeah.
Because there's a reason that they pushed it. Man, they made Corey the face of the show at one point.
They did.
Despite the fact
he
that
was on the billboard with bananas in Times Square.
People like Corey a lot. Like, women find him very attractive, very, very handsome man. Almost anyone you talk to, it's kind of the Cam Newton effect and the Kurt Warner effect in a weird way. Just women love those two people. They love Corey. So he has broad appeal that way. And just challenge fans know him as kind of like a perpetual loser, but like a fun character. At least he was back in the day. It's just they know they can put a marketing machine behind Corey. And this is his chance right now to reinvent himself in front of a whole new audience. And he's younger than Wes. He's younger than Bananas. Like, one of those guys winning, I think, is actually bad for this show.
My thing would be, I don't know that them winning necessarily forbears that they're going to become like a hallmark star of the show that everyone's going to rally around. Like Tori and Devin just won Ride or Dies, and no, I don't think anybody's like, oh, we need to see them like leading the show for the next couple of years.
No, but this is on CBS now, right?
Yeah.
So presumably more people will watch and more new people will watch. And if you can create a star out of Corey, and it's not like people don't know him. He's on Teen Mom. He's been on The Challenge. He's been on The Real World. He's still young enough. He's a guy that you can push and put on a billboard, even when he's kind of a jabroni. If he's actually good at something, I think it's good for the show.
Yeah. And the other story that they also have here is it was sometime either before or after this, his girlfriend gave birth to the baby that's had all the heart problems. And so he's been in and out of the hospital with her. So I would imagine that that's going to be part of his storyline as well. And I think that's going to endear him to a lot of people now that you've said all of that. You combine all of those things. Corey winning might actually drive ratings up. And it's weird to say that out loud because people would rally behind his story. I really didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, like there's no reason for Corey to be on this show at this point, based on everything that he's done on the challenge. His one thing is that people like him. And if he was good, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's interesting thought, because I was in the court that the best case scenario for the show would be Paulie winning, just because they'd be forced to bring him back more and it would create more tension. But now that you've said it, I'm like, no, actually Corey winning would be great. Or Corey needs to do what he's done in multiple seasons and make it to the last elimination and just lose in agonizing fashion so that when he comes back next time, everybody's begging for Corey to win.
I suppose I can see the idea from like a larger narrative, what's best for the show idea. I just think Paulie's the most entertaining. If he's just around to the final.
But like, you're now working under the impression that Paulie needs to win in order to come back ever again. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I think he's brought enough goodwill now where it's just going to depend on his behavior this season, the cast perception of him.
So he doesn't need to win.
No, I just mean I would very much enjoy a season where Paulie ends up the winner. I think that's just the narrative of that season turns out in a manner where
I feel like his Instagram would be hilarious if he wins. Like he'd be surrounded by half naked women. He'd be drinking champagne. Like it would be a very entertaining news cycle if he won. That's for sure.
It's like if Cuss ever did a cartwheel, right? That's basically what we'd be watching.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm pro Paulie winning at some point, but I just think for the first, because Challenge USA 1 felt like kind of a pilot episode to a TV show, because none of the challenge people were on it. People weren't really familiar with the format of what happens on the challenge, but it did decent enough ratings that you're going to get a lot of people who are now returning to the show for the first time. And now the challenge seems like this cast is putting a better foot forward than Challenge USA did. So this feels like the first real season of Challenge USA in front of the CBS audience. So having like a good guy winner that people can rally around, not even think that Corey's like a great guy. It's just people like him. So if people like him and you can push that up, it's better than Paulie, who people like actively dislike winning.
That's true.
What do you make of the fact that just the finals they've done recently have had so many issues? Do you think there's any like larger reason for that, or is it just kind of their execution's been bad?
Execution's been bad. Like they're trying to do too much. You don't need to do that much in a fucking final. It doesn't need to be 4 days long.
It is really
go back and watch the Rivals 2 final. That's what you need. Go back and watch the Fresh Meat 2 final. That's what you need. Go back and watch Cutthroat. That's what you need. A 1 day. Here's the start. Here's the finish. Go.
I do really like the Fresh Meat 2 final. And I'm excited when you guys finally get there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, here is our starting point. And TGS points at the top of one of the mountains and whistles like, that's where you need to get to. First one there wins.
Yep.
With these challenge finals, it is the one thing in my life where I feel like I'm like an InfoWars correspondent watching it sometimes, where you go back and with the All-Stars 2 final, and it's like they were manipulating the background. So it was actually daytime when it was actually nighttime. And then people didn't finish in this certain order. They are all these things out of whack. MJ and Janae in a truck being driven around half the final because it screwed it up so badly. It's like, man, how is this difficult to pull off?
Yeah, and that's the one thing I am worried about the ratings for USA 2 is the people that invested in USA 1, the vitriol to the final for people that had never watched the challenge before was pretty big. They were like, I don't want to see these people die. It looks like they're going to die. And then it looks like whoever the 2 people that won only because they could figure out a Sudoku. And on top of that,
could they actually figure out a Sudoku?
That's the other question is that they felt like, were they needed winners, so production said just go. Like there was a lot of conspiracy among people that had never watched the challenge prior to USA 1 that walked away with a really bad taste in their mouth from that final. So I will be curious to see if some of those people come back.
Do you think it actually makes people not watch though? Like, is anybody really not tuning into the next season because of that? I think if anything, it just drives up interest in the more of the behind the scenes content.
The one thing that worries me about a lot of those people not coming back is the time slot. Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. I know it's going to be, there's not other original programming out there, but it's on Thursday. So they're going to be going up against the NFL for a few weeks. That scares me. Granted, that's on Amazon Prime, so it might not be that bad.
Also, what do you think is the crossover audience there, honestly? Because I've heard that, the NFL is the most popular thing on TV. This we know. Mm-hmm. But I would say that it has the least amount of crossover with reality TV in terms of viewing.
I would agree.
I would think with the challenge specifically, I think if they're actually trying to make the show what it was, that it should have a bit more crossover.
No,
Yeah.
but
Like, a lot of the way I watch the show is
I
all-
go on like me, and again, this is me just using an echo chamber to prove my point here. But like, just go onto the challenge Reddit. These people seem like they haven't been outside in 20 years.
Well, but I should say, like, how many people in the fantasy football industry do you know that also watch the challenge?
That like the challenge?
Yeah,
No.
there's some at least, right?
8.
And that's not. I don't think that's insignificant compared to like the average. Like for my friends, were basically very few of them actually heard of the show at all for before in my age bracket. I would think the show's actually like in the ideal form of how I see the show. Obviously, part of why I like the show is I feel like you can appeal to a lot of different people, right? You have the dramatic parts of it, you have the relationship drama, you have the political aspect of people strategizing against each other. You also have the athletic competition where you can air the competition in a way. Like a lot of why I look at it is like, this is athletic competition, but filmed in a way closer to a movie or a more dramatic product, but still actual competition. So I think if the show actually works as the way it should be able to pull from almost any different game.
Yeah. The one thing that gives me hope with it, though, so I'll finish the little thought there. The fact that their lead in is Big Brother really helps the show keep going on Thursday night in its time slot, because I think there's a bigger crossover of people that will watch Big Brother and the challenge than there are people that will watch Survivor and the challenge. And season 1 of USA, they arguably had much bigger Survivor names than they do this season. So I don't know how much of the Survivor audience you're going to pull, but I think you're going to get a good pull of Big Brother, because when you look at the names they've got from Big Brother, I mean, they've got a bunch of former winners. They've got some popular characters from that. I think that that's probably going to be its biggest lifeline, is the fact that it's got so much Big Brother tied to it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Survivor's still like much bigger in the ratings than all these shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would think so. I think Survivor and Bachelor kind of stand alone as reality TV properties.
But I would guess that the age demo for Survivor is much older.
Way older.
Yeah. And that tracks. Like my grandma would watch Survivor. She's not watching Big Brother.
No, yeah, I can say similarly about a lot of people.
But to kind of put that into context, like she's also not going to watch the challenge either. So I think you're right, Trace, that the crossover audience between Big Brother and the challenge is just far more logical.
Yeah. So it makes sense to me to really lean into the Big Brother aspect of the cast, because that will pull some of the audience. I don't think Survivor is going to really move this needle a whole lot unless you bring in a Russell Hands or a Boston Rob or like
that's just not
a truly big name.
Boston Rob's like 50 something, isn't he?
It's still, he would draw. That's the thing. But
Boston
you'd also
Rob.
have to.
You
got to draw.
Where's Amber? Is Amber my lifeline? What show am I on? Guy sucks.
The key is, though, to get those big names on Survivor, the paycheck to just show up is going to have to be bigger. And I think that the dollar ratio of what you get for paying a known Big Brother contestant versus a known Survivor contestant is a much lower dollar figure.
I would agree. And I don't even know if having Boston Rob on the challenge would even move the needle at all. Because like you said, it's just not the same demo.
Yeah.
I think people would tune in for half the first episode. That's it.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's some that would tune in, but I don't even think Boston Rob's the right guy. I think you'd have to go
Russell, the guy who's in jail. Hatch. Get him.
Hatley. Yeah.
Oh, Richard Hatch. Yeah.
But
That would be, he would draw. He'd be terrible on the show, but he would draw.
Yeah, he's
I think you could get some money out of Coach. I think you could get some money easily out of Tyson, because I think a lot of that rating was tied to Tyson last year from the Survivor
It sucks
side.
they screwed him over so much and he won't come back.
And that was there's enough. You can cut Rob. You can cut someone a big enough check that will come back. Come on now.
They just won't cut a big enough check for him to come back.
Well, I guess I should say they screwed him over to the point where they're not a realistic amount of money that they're going to offer him is not going to bring it back.
Richard Hatch is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Richard Hatch.
The winner of Survivor.
I even think you could go well deep into the real geriatric side of the Survivor in terms of seasons and pull out an Aussie, and people haven't seen him for so long. I think people would be intrigued, but you'd have to build a lot of promo material around the return of Aussie to reality TV. So like, I just don't think the investment, unless you're going to cut the check to the big names like Tyson, the investment in the Survivor players does not give you a big enough ROI as Big Brother does. That's just my point.
Richard Hatch is 62 years old, and he served 51 months in prison
for tax fraud. That's crazy to me.
And when you look at his Wikipedia page for his spouses, he got divorced in 2017 to Emiliano Cabral and he was married to unnamed Australian woman for 5 years.
Oh, was he really? I did not know that.
From 1985 to 1990. What about the guy from season 2 of Survivor who like was making that fire and then he fell in the fire? The guy was
Oh.
great.
They cannot have him on the show. They cannot have him on the show.
Yeah, he
There's
kind of
no-
got canceled after his last Survivor season.
I don't think kind of is the right reason. He was very much in jail.
Yeah.
Oh, shit,
He
really?
was way in jail.
Did not know that was. I just remember him killing that pig. I mean, I only watched 2
Yeah.
seasons. I watched the first 2 seasons of Survivor, and that was it. I just remember him killing the pig and falling in the fire and being evac'd out. What did he
They
do?
brought
You
him
can-
back on like a redemption season, like somewhere in the season late 20, early 30s range, I think, before they kind of switched to Ghost Island and stuff like that. And then after that season, like he went to jail for some big shit.
Like,
We can talk about that off air.
I mean, I'm sure I can Google it. Can I?
You can Google it pretty quick
can
and it'll
Google
come
it.
up.
What was his
It
name?
was all over TMZ.
What was his name?
Mike Scoopin. What's his name?
Mike.
Let's say he might be winning a former Subway commercial.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Really?
He's in Jared from Subway territory.
Oh fuck!
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
not
no.
not a guy they can bring on. Yeah.
No, they cannot. I did not know this.
Yeah. Rough
No.
story for that rough situation there.
That's
Yeah.
that's why you do background checks, right?
Yes.
That's why you should do background checks, certainly.
You know
it's
what?
kind of like
I'm
how
not
they
even-
had to
I'm not
re-edit
even
season
gonna-
39.
I'm not going to even cut out the part at the beginning. I'll just put like a 5-second disclaimer off the top of the show, being like, "Yo, if you want to hear about the cast, jump to 23 minutes in."
Sounds good.
That makes it easier for me. So, what do you guys got going on? Like, are you guys going to do every episode of Challenge USA 2 recaps?
I think
That's
the
our plan.
We'll see how life unfolds. We all have a very busy lives. Unfortunately, are not solely covering the challenge. So
Yeah.
there may be other things that come up, but
I
we'll
mean,
certainly try to do every episode.
Realistically, we will probably in some shape or fashion cover every episode of USA 2. We've already done our fantasy draft preview on our feed as well. As you said, it's link in the show here. And then on our Patreon, we are getting further into the Chronicles, which our show was birthed out of. We're currently in Fresh Meat 2, and we kind of changed the format a little bit, and we're covering it like we do the weekly episodes. We call it the Fast Five, but realistically, it's just the whole show. But we're doing only one episode at a time instead of 3.
I like it better this way.
We do too.
I think it's easier for you guys too, that you don't have to make like 3 shows worth of notes at the same time too.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
lot easier
No.
to watch one. Well, and Devin's the one that really puts in the hard work on our Chronicle shows because he does all of the note taking. Rob and I are just kind of like the color commentators, so to speak.
I still take notes. I just don't have to take them for every 8 seconds like he does.
Yeah. So doing one episode a week's a lot easier, and it also just works out for us a lot better because we can record 2 shows back to back and put them out, and we're good until next week because we all have jobs and lives and don't have the luck and the hard work and drive that you do to have an empire.
Well, I mean, I don't think the challenge. I mean, unless you're Scott and Derek, I don't know how much money other people are making from their challenge podcasting careers.
Let's put it this way: I make enough to take my family to Disney World every year, and I'm very happy about that.
That's nice, and people can support the Patreon. Was it like $4 a month?
$4 a month, you get access to our Discord. So if you're like a hardcore challenge fan, our Discord's a fun place to hang out because it's not got some of the toxicity of regular social media, and we pretty much let people self-police, and it's worked out really well. So we've got some really fun challenge stuff. I often do like a live Discord along with the new episodes out there when they air. So we get a lot of fun on Discord. You also get the bonus episode every week on Patreon. So $4, you're getting a lot of stuff. And then we also do our own Patreon fantasy football leagues as well that we all play in. So if people
After all
interested in those kind of things, they can jump in and interact with us. The best part, my favorite part of the fantasy football is our live draft. We just get on Zoom and it's a lot of fun. So Patreons get to hang out with us and we have a lot of fun with it. So yeah.
Rob, this is the first time in like 5 years that I didn't spend the entire show making fun of you. So congratulations.
Nice. Now I wonder what I did to deserve that.
I know the fact that you were able to fix your camera and you didn't sound like shit on your microphone. I mean, it goes a long way.
So
Yeah,
for everybody listening to this, Rob's equipment is the most hilarious thing now. He's using an Xbox Rock Band microphone, and it worked way better than any other equipment he's ever tried to use. And it's changed the quality of our show.
It sucks too because I spent like over $300 on microphones, and I've tried to return them and they won't take them.
How are you so bad at technology? It works for literally everyone else except for
Again,
you.
I'm getting a master's in IT. I do not have it yet. So maybe once that day comes, things will improve.
Well, as I mentioned, you can subscribe to the Challenge Chronicles podcast, the free version, and even the Patreon version. I'm a Patreon member, so you should become one too. You can hit that link down in the description. You can also get the link to the Fantasy League as well. And that'll do it for me. Smash the like on the way out. Watch the challenge. Needs our support. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience. Experience.